Okay, yeah, thank you, Carter. You already knew where I was going with that. Read my mind.
Mind reader.
Oh, God. I'm hanging out with you guys too much. I need a vacation. Oh, welcome to another edition of Popcorn Bucket List, and I promise we're done talking about Joker. We're done with it. We're done. Well, he might. I don't know what he's. I can't. Can you see through that? I can't even see. Your eyes look a little off there. I don't think you can. How many fingers am I holding up? How many fingers am I holding up?
2.
Nope. You're red.
I think that was a kid's mask.
Could you breathe in that at all?
No, not very well.
Look, go put the camera back on. Look how red he is. He was not that way 10 minutes ago.
It's because I'm hot.
That might be it too, I guess. But in all seriousness, we are going to be talking about some big smiles and big serial killers on this episode. So buckle up, because as the outside temperatures go down, spooky season, it heats up.
I like that.
Thank you.
Because it was cold this morning.
It's chilly.
It was cold.
It is chilly out there. So that means probably going to be spending a lot of time indoors watching some scary movies here, as we are pretty much halfway through October here. I like to think we've gotten to the point now where October, much like the 31 Days of Christmas, you just kind of go 31 days of scary movies. Speaking of which, have you got any updates for us? Actually, now that I think about it,
To be honest, this sounds bad, but I haven't really watched one, at least a scary movie in at least like 3 days, maybe. It's been a while, but I'm kind of in the works to watch Terrifier 3 on the big screen this weekend. We're going to see how it plays out. It might happen, it might not. I'm really hoping to play my cards right, but I don't know.
you got time to catch up.
Yeah, but I've seen a couple of new ones this year. What did I just watch? I don't remember. I'll have to look at my sheet. There was one that I watched that was new. I shouldn't say it. It was new to me. It was one that I hadn't seen before. But yeah, I'll give you a full breakdown next week.
I just love how you have a sheet for this. This you're taking this seriously, and
I know,
love it.
because
it.
Although I'm falling behind, so these next couple of weeks, I'm really gonna have to buckle up.
Well, like I said, it's chillier outside, so you might be spending some more time indoors. So
and
time
also,
to do it.
I found a couple of new like Roku TV apps that are free that have a ton of scary movies on them. Whether or not they're any good, that's a different question. But there's a bunch of free stuff out there.
Your kids are going to learn these next couple of weeks. They're going to
Yes.
learn what a scary movie is.
Yes.
But that it does kind of transition us into our opening spotlight here today. Today we're doing kind of something a little bit more general. We've maybe referenced this a few weeks here in the past, but we're kind of restarting the partnership with the Lyon County Library here. We're putting up some scary movies. I didn't intend this, but I know the ones I recommended kind of do cover a wide range of ages.
Yes, I think we both did a pretty good job of we got a couple of kids movies, a couple of media movies, and a couple
Definitely not for kids.
some heavy hitters there.
Heavy hitters, yes. And, like I said, we both kind of did that naturally, but I do want to kind of focus on that a little bit more here this week. So we're going to do something a little different. Haven't really come up with a name for this one here yet, but we're going to kind of recommend based on MPAA ratings. And I was doing a little digging here. There's essentially, I guess depending on who you ask, there's like 3 to 5 general ratings for the MPAA. G isn't really a thing anymore. In fact, I think I read an article that last year, 2023, was the first year that not a single G-rated movie was released. So we just kind of decided to skip that one. Basically, PG and G are the same thing.
They're basically the same thing.
And so we're going to talk about our favorite PG-rated scary movie, PG-13 rated, R-rated, and then for fun, I figured you'd have an NC-17 one. I did not. Surprisingly not.
Well, and it's weird because the way like the NC-17, a lot of times how that you get around that is you just release like your R-rated version to theaters, and then when the movie comes out, you call it a director's cut or the unrated version or so like that NC-17 is really kind of more strictly for the unrated cuts delivered to movie theaters. So that's kind of where that comes from.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on here. Some of these may be in our display at the Lyon County Library. Some of them may not. You have to go and check it out and find out and see what other stuff they have there as well for spooky season. But yeah, let's just go right into it here. Let's just start with the lighter ones, the PG ones that we think could be good for all ages, but is still within the realm of it being scary. So if you got a kid who's like, I kind of want to get into horror movies, you want to give them a little. Like you kind of said, a heavy hitter.
Yep.
Here's the little toss-up, a little softball for you right here.
This is still on the tee. This is on the tee.
Still on the tee.
This is on the tee.
No, that's what G-rated would have been. That would have still been on it. This is when you're like, very gently, very gently.
All right.
And knowing how good I was at sports, I still would have missed it. So, why don't you kick things off here with your PG-rated one? What's one you're recommending here?
I'm going with Phantom of the Megaplex. One of my favorite movies of all time. I might have written something. Did I write something else down?
You did write something
down.
What
did I write down?
You wrote Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, Nightmare Before Christmas. All right. I'm gonna actually give you two because I love. We'll go with Nightmare Before Christmas first. Claymation, Tim Burton. It's awesome. Jack Skellington, the whole bit. It can be a Christmas movie. It can be a Halloween movie. A lot of Halloween elements. A lot of things that Tim Burton has grown on to be, or think people know Tim Burton from. A lot of it kind of started back here, and this is a just awesome movie, wonderful movie. But Phantom of the Megaplex, one of my favorite movies. It's available on Disney Plus, I believe. Disney Channel original movie, came out late 90s. And it's great. I know we've talked about it on here before, but there's a Phantom of... It's kind of like a play on Phantom of the Opera, but it's at a movie theater, and it's got Disney Channel kids, so everything's kind of cool. It's just... It's vibey. It's awesome. It's great. Check it out.
I'm going to go with Goosebumps, the live-action adaptation of this. This is the one that starred Jack Black, essentially playing an R.L. Stine version of the character. I went into this movie. I hadn't even really ever read any R.L. Stine books. I've said it on this show before, I'm not the biggest fan of horror movies, so it makes sense I wouldn't have read scary books growing up either. That would have been a plot twist if it was I don't like scary movies, but I was a big fan of R.L. Stine.
Big fan of R.L.
That would have been weird. But I hadn't really seen or read any of those books. I didn't really know about this universe or anything like that, so I went in pretty blind, and I feel like I got a pretty good sense of the vibe these scary stories are essentially, and how they are sort of... They're creepy, but it's, I don't know if I want to call it relatable, but it connects to things kids were going through and stuff like that, or situations they may be going through. And I thought a lot of the acting was really good. There's some pretty good comedy that also keeps it light as well. But there are scary monsters. Yeah. That little dummy that is also voiced by Jack Black.
Slappy.
Yeah, who's one of the most famous R.L. Stine characters.
Yeah.
That guy's creepy.
Yeah. And it's also, if you are younger and you've read some of the Goosebumps books, this is just another avenue for you to go down if you like those things. Yeah. And if you don't, it's hey, check it out. It's cool.
Yeah, it's a good way to introduce you to scary movies, but it's also a good way to introduce you to those books. Yeah, possibly as well. Let's kick things up a notch then here and move on to PG-13 rated. Here's, I definitely did consider, and so I want to hear you talk a little bit about 10 Cloverfield Lane here a little bit. What are your thoughts on this?
So the reason I went with this one is, one, it's a little bit newer. One, it's also... We live in a world now where there are doomsday preppers that build their own shelters, and we hear the sirens go off because in Hawaii, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, somebody accidentally said, "Oh, missiles incoming, duck and cover, the end is near." And
I don't think the text included the end is near.
Yeah, I don't know if the text said that, but I really when the first Cloverfield movie came out, it was kind of like here's this random movie, and it's kind of a found footage kind of thing. You don't really see the monster. So this just kind of builds off it. I didn't know they were coming out with a second one. And this one, even though it's taking place in the same universe with the same monsters, you have no idea, or you could watch this without having seen the first one. It's a completely standalone by itself. And John Goodman's in it.
Fantastic.
One
of his best, I think.
100%. And he hadn't been in anything for a while before this, so it was nice to see excuse me, to see him in this.
Take a deep breath. Take
yeah.
a deep breath. He's getting excited over this one.
I really liked it. But the point is, a girl wakes up in a guy's doomsday bunker. How did she get here? What happened? Is the world really ending? Is this just a weird torture, kidnapping thing? What's going on? So it's not necessarily your horror monsters. It's more of the psychological, what's going on? Can I trust him? And do I trust these other people?
It's almost at the end of the day, like the question she essentially has to pose herself is, because she doesn't know exactly what's going on outside, but it is Cloverfield movie, so we as an audience are like, oh, so it could be alien from the first one or whatever. There are a lot of mysteries to this one, and you really have to ask yourself the question once you get to a certain point in the movie. It's like, all right, do I just face the monster that's in here, or do I take my chances with the monster out there?
Yep.
And yeah, there's so many layers to this movie. And you talk about how like no one knew this was coming out. I think a huge part about that was because there's like 4 actors total in this, and one of them only shows up for like a minute.
Yeah.
It is mainly those 3 in one singular location. So it's a lot easier to keep that production under wraps there. So yeah, you went into that one not knowing a lot because there hadn't been a lot of promotion.
Yeah.
And then you almost just leave with more questions, but not in like a annoying, confusing kind of way.
Yeah. Yep. No, and that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, yours is a pretty good pick there. It's very tense. I'm gonna go. Look, I think generally speaking, I'm going a little bit lighter on each of these here. That's just how I roll. Again, not the biggest horror movie fan here. I can't even necessarily say this is the scariest scary movie, but I'm gonna go with Happy Death Day.
Oh yeah,
I haven't seen the second one yet, unfortunately, but there's just enough creepy elements for me to say it's scary. And it's got a little bit of that sci-fi element. You can sprinkle that in there, and I'm going to be on board more often than not. And I think, it's the repeating day trope, which we've seen a lot of movies do.
Seen a lot of movies do that. Yep.
Only this time, it's not so much they're dying because stuff is going wrong. They're dying because someone just happens to be killing them each and every day here. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to solve the mystery. So it's got that element to it as well. It's got sort of a murder mystery aspect to it of like, okay, who's the person behind the mask? So if you really like that Scooby-Doo stuff, where you're trying to figure out who is the culprit here, it's got a little bit of that as well. And the mask is kind of creepy, the way they portray it.
Yeah.
That's an unsettling mask.
Yeah, and it's a fun, almost realistic until it gets to the repeating every day again. But it's a fun, kind of scary movie to watch and enjoy. I really like it.
Yeah, I haven't been that scared of a baby's face since one of the Twilight movies when they had that CGI baby. For those of you who remember, like that was one of the worst pieces of CGI I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are some PG-13 rated ones that deal with a little bit tougher themes, deal with a little bit tougher situations. Mine isn't too bloody. I don't think yours Cloverfield Lane wasn't too bloody either, I don't think. There's maybe a few scenes that are a little creepy, but yeah. But let's get right into R-rated here. Let's get into the nitty-gritty here. You'll have to remind me about your pick here. You talk about your R-rated pick here.
My pick for R-rated is I wanted to go with something newer that I had seen, and my pick was Longlegs. Nicolas Cage plays somewhat serial killer, somewhat not. There's a hint of serial killerness to it. There's a hint of religion to it. There's a hint of black magic. The movie is very unsettling. Unsettling imagery, unsettling context, just unsettling. I think Nicolas Cage gives a fantastic performance. Absolutely wonderful as like a crazy psychopath guy. It is very good. I really enjoyed this movie. This one might be harder to find because it is newer, but if you get the time, check it out. It's worth it. It's a unsettling movie.
To be fair, almost every movie is unsettling a little bit when you got the Cage involved.
True.
Even National Treasure, you just kind of look at it and I'm like, there's something in those eyes, man.
This might be like one of his first, like more of like a serious killer, wild guy. I don't want to say wild because he's kind of a wild guy, but like like unstable in the head but smart serial killer. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something different that he's doing, and I enjoy it.
I think to kind of add to your point, in more often than not, when he's in movies like that, the movie isn't taking itself very seriously. Or it's not very good. Here, it just feels like it was taking itself a little bit more seriously.
Yes, very seriously.
I feel like we don't see that as much anymore with Nick. It's easy for a director to just be like, let's just do a silly thing. Oh, we got Nick Cage. We can really make it silly. You know?
Yep.
That sort of thing.
Like Renfro.
Yeah. I still can't believe that movie didn't do it. I expected way more in that movie. All right, my R-rated pick here. I'm going to go with, I think, one of the original scary movies. You know, you went with a little bit more recent, which I think is pretty good. Mine, I think, is a little bit more simplistic, but that is what makes it scary to me. And I'm talking about the original Halloween movie. Original Michael Myers here. You pulled out the mask. I didn't even tell you I was going to reference that. That's just how we plan things, I guess. It just happens. Happy little accident.
Happy little accident.
Bob Ross would say here. The reason why I think this is one of the scariest R-rated movies is it's not the most R-rated-iest. That's not a word, but we just invented it here. It's not the most gory, but it is violence. But the reason why I think it's the scariest is because I think this is when Michael Myers is at the scariest. Now, we have talked about on this show, we've broken down the timelines, all the alternate versions and all that. There's certain excuses, explanations for why he does. I'm choosing to ignore all that. I'm saying go into this one just watching this guy named Michael Myers who's just killing just to kill. And that to me is the scariest because if I'm watching a movie and I figure out the character's motivations, I'm also kind of putting myself in some of the side characters' heads of like, okay, how do I beat this character? I think Michael Myers is a little bit scarier than the alien from Aliens because the alien from Aliens, I kind of know its motivation. It's killing because it's an animal or whatever.
Yeah.
So I can kind of counteract that and I can kind of get ahead of that. Michael, you never really know what he's thinking next. Now, obviously, in the later movies, again, they add motivations. They add all that stuff. And
they get deep in the weeds on a lot of things.
That's whatever. But I'm talking in that very first one, before we know any of the backstory, before we know any of this other stuff, he's just out there killing, and we don't really know why. And he is not like a typical scary movie villain where he makes a lot of noises. He's very stealthy. He just kind of moves around and all that, and I don't know, to me that makes him one of the scariest. Hey, we talk a lot about movies on this channel, but sometimes the ones we talk about aren't the most accessible. That's where the Marshall Lyon County Library comes in handy. They have a great collection of physical media, as well as a couple of online services with many, many options for movies, TV shows, and documentaries. It's easy. Just get your own library card at the Marshall Lyon County Library and gain access to their large variety of movies, TV shows, and of course, books. Also, be sure to check back every month as we here at Popcorn Bucket List make specific movie recommendations based on a monthly theme. So head on over to the Marshall Lyon County Library for some of our favorites and check out the channel to get even more movie recommendations. And now, on with the show!
And a little trivia for anybody out there that wants to put it down in the comments. What was Michael Myers referred to in the first Halloween? What was he referred to as?
You're gonna have a prize or something like that, or just a little pat on the back, or
we can scrounge up probably a movie ticket, don't you think? We could probably scrounge up.
Don't look at me.
Yeah, I'll get you a little gift card to the movie theater.
I couldn't even afford your butter braids. You think I'm gonna put in money for that ticket? We tried to do that prize with the gift cards, and that drained my bank account.
Yeah.
Many times we've done that. So. All right. For a little bit of an honorable mention here, like I said, we're going to also throw in an NC-17 movie here. I obviously do not have one too. I even looked through a bunch of just NC-17 just to see if there's one I saw accidentally.
Yeah.
And no, I couldn't see any that I recognized here. So why don't you take it away here? What's an NC-17 movie that you think is
the one that I'm gonna talk about is probably most famous, or maybe earlier. It's called Cannibal Holocaust. This I actually believe I rented at. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I rented it at the library at some point.
I thought you were going to say Blockbuster.
Whether or not it was like this library but it was a very it's about a group going to over into the jungle to save or to check on a film crew that hadn't returned yet. Supposed to be a rescue mission, but it turns out not to be a rescue mission. Yeah, it's worth a watch. It's kind of the same thing. They show the found footage, but then it has another angle to it as like, are we the wild people? Or are the people that live in the tribes, are they the wild people? And it kind of, it crosses those lines through, how do I want to say this? It kind of blends those two worlds together. And it's just, it's a fantastic watch. Yes, they do actually hurt some animals. And that's part of the reason why I think it got the NC-17, but it depicts a lot worse things. And fun fact, the director actually had to go to trial because after the film, he told his actors to hide, like, don't be seen out in public. So a bunch of people thought that the actors were actually killed because it shows some of them getting killed in the movie. So then when they went to court, it's like, nope, yep, he's still alive. He's right here. Like, we're just promoting the movie. And yeah, and some of it is very realistic. It's wild.
I was going to say, I wouldn't want to be on trial as a director, but that has got to be some of the best free marketing ever.
Oh yeah, and especially back in like the 70s, like no internet, like pre-internet, pre-Snapchat, all of that stuff. It's not that hard to be at that time to not be noticed somewhere. Like you can hang out at home and put on, clothes and like go to the Hy-Vee and nobody knows who you are.
Yeah.
Like it was worked. It's very good.
That's some of the recommends we have here for different ratings of different scary movies that you can check out here during this spooky season. Like I said, some of these may or may not be over at the Lyon County Library, or some of the other things we wanted to recommend and talk about are set up there as well. But let's move on to the weekly preview. Talk about all the other stuff coming out here this weekend. We're going to start off with Thursday, October 17th, the day this episode come out here. We actually got a couple things to talk about. First one, Brothers, coming to Prime Video. Stars Peter Dinklage and Josh Brolin. They play brothers that are really good at stealing stuff. And after spending many years apart, they decide to reunite for one last job.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. And it also has...
it has a couple other people in this.
It's got Brandon Fraser in it.
Oh, yeah. I made a note about that later on.
It's going to be awesome.
The thing I was going to say about Brendan Fraser on this one is, like, he is the guy who's forcing them to do this job, so he's a bad guy. How does he still look like the nicest guy ever, even when he's threatening Peter Dinklage?
Yeah, that's really funny when he throws him in the trailer, he, like, chucks him across the prison cell into the bathtub. Super funny.
But he still looks like the nicest guy ever.
Yeah.
Like, we don't deserve him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically, you ever see that movie Twins with Arnold and Danny? Yeah, it's pretty much that, but this time crimes are being committed and everything. So,
and Josh Brolin's awesome. Peter Dinklage is fantastic as well.
Yeah, I think when I kind of first heard this one was being announced, I did think it was like a Twins ripoff or remake or whatever. It does seem like they are kind of trying to do their own thing here, and it does look a little bit funnier than I gave it credit for at first. So I think I'm more looking forward to this one for sure.
Yeah, I think it will be pretty funny. Josh Brolin, he's actually a pretty funny actor, and Peter Dinklage, his timing, his words, he's a wordsmith. He's pretty good.
Not only that, Brolin seems a little bit more vulnerable in this one.
Yeah,
like he still looks like Brolin, but you feel like he's like the younger brother to Dinklage, whereas like he's kind of getting pushed around by him.
It's not Josh Brolin in Sicario.
Yeah,
it's Josh Brolin hanging out with Peter Dinklage. Yeah, different.
Also coming out that exact same day, The Shadow Strays, coming straight to Netflix. This is an Indonesian action movie that centers around a teenage assassin who kind of messes up on the job. Hey, 17-year-olds, we've all been there. We've all screwed up on the job, especially at a summer gig or something like that, right? It happens. But the assassin community doesn't quite.
They don't like that.
Eventually, she kind of tries to find some new purpose with her skills by trying to help a young kid who had lost his parents. Not sure if that is connected to this screw up or if this is a totally different thing, I guess. But at the end of the day, they're going to be kind of chasing her down, being like, hey, you messed up this thing. You need to pay for that or whatever. Mm-hmm. that's just lessons in responsibility right there. I don't know if that's really the lesson here.
The lesson we want to learn here, but I think the action itself looks great. I like foreign action films because they tend to focus a lot more on hand-to-hand combat, and I think just from the fighting sequences that they show in the trailer is pretty awesome. So I gotta imagine the rest of it's gonna be sweet. So if you're a big action fan and love the kind of hand-to-hand close combat, I think you'll really enjoy this.
But let's move on then to Friday, October 18th, the big weekend premieres here. We talked a lot about scary movies already, so we're going to keep talking about it here. We're going to be, it's October.
October.
This is just what's going to happen. Smile 2 coming straight to theaters here. This is a sequel to, would you call it the surprise 2022 hit? I feel like this movie kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and it did a lot better than I was anticipating it was going to.
Yeah. So it just makes sense that they'd make a sequel out of it here. So a couple years later, here we are now at Smile 2. This one centers around a pop star played by Naomi Scott as I'm calling it the Smile Demon. I don't know if they call it something else in the movie.
I don't remember what it's,
I'm going to call it, from here on out, I'm going to call it the Dentist.
The Dentist.
Because it helps you smile.
You watched that Watchers episode, didn't you?
No, I just came over that now.
Oh, really?
I swear to God.
Oh.
That's not in my notes at all. I just came over that right now. No, no.
That was good.
Right off the noggin. So this one, like the last one, starts kind of attacking people around her. If I had a nickel for every scary, tense movie that was centered around a pop concert in 2024, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice.
Yeah, that is kind of goofy.
You had Trap. Now you have this one.
Yeah.
Both pop stars. Granted, Trap wasn't a demon.
True.
But
just a guy kind of like a demon.
Yeah. I did not see the first one. At least I don't remember seeing the first one. Did you see the first Smile?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like you did. What did you think looking at
I thought it was pretty good.
The second one?
If that's your jam, that you really enjoyed the first one, I think you'll really like this one. If you like that idea of, once you get smiled at, then you get it, and then you pass it. So, if you like that, you'll really like this movie. Hopefully.
I was going to say, I feel like I know the answer to this question. How many of the characters from the first one carry over to this one? Did any of them make it?
I don't think so. Oh, I don't think so.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I mean, I watched it right when it came out, and I haven't seen it since then, so I don't really remember.
Also coming out to theaters here. If you're not big onto the scary stuff, this might be something to check out here. Goodrich, coming straight to theaters. This movie follows the owner of an art gallery as he struggles to take care of his 2 young kids when his wife up and leaves him and goes to rehab. Just last minute. Kind of no warning there. However, he's not completely alone as he enlists the help of his first daughter from a previous marriage who's all grown up, and together they sort of figure it out. Yep. This father-daughter duo is played by Michael Keaton and Mila Kunis. Michael Keaton, one of my favorite actors out there. So
I think it looks good. I think Michael Keaton looks like he's going to do a fantastic job. Mila Kunis is awesome. Timing, that's the only thing I think. Why are you putting this out in the middle of October? My understanding is it's probably really good, and they want to get it in before award season.
That's the only thing I could think of.
But don't put this out in the middle of spooky season. Or they're trying to say anybody that's not going to spooky movies, come watch our movie.
That's the other thing too. Is I feel like September might be just a little too early. November, it might get buried amongst all the other ones.
Yeah.
So now they're just like, well, October's still a little early, but it's not. It's kind of like preseason.
Yeah.
To the award season here.
Yep.
And like we've both kind of mentioned here, now it gives audiences another option. Not everyone likes scary movies. Heck, I don't. But I mean, I'll watch a few more during October. But for people who really just don't enjoy that stuff, then you have another option here.
Yep.
So I agree with you, but at the same time, you can kind of see where they're coming from.
I see it.
I would say this is more of a serious movie, but it does have some humorous elements, which, in my opinion, is where Michael Keaton kind of thrives, especially.
Yeah.
So I think I'm looking forward to this one. But keeping in the vein of scary movies here, we got a Shudder movie. kind of surprised we haven't talked about more of these. Feels like.
Yeah. Well, a few of the ones we've talked about have been on Shudder.
Yeah. This one is called Mads, or Mad capital S, or you see it on screen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking
That's what it is.
about. It's Mads. Although when I first typed this into IMDb, it kept trying to redirect me to Mads Mikkelsen.
Yep.
So that was a little confusing. But after taking some illegal substances, a night of partying goes haywire. I really don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be like a killer drug kind of a thing, and then it turns into like the Spring Breakers meets zombies and gets wild.
That is a very accurate way to put it.
Yeah.
For the record, we here at Omni Entertainment would like to say on the record, don't do drugs.
Don't do
just
drugs.
in general. Okay. Don't do drugs. Just don't do them. But especially don't do new untested drugs that you have no idea what it will do to you.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a huge part of the beginning of this trailer. It's like, oh yeah, my dealer gave this new thing. What's to do? I don't know. Let's go.
Take it. Nice.
And then it turns you into cannibals.
Yeah.
I think that's the implication here. It turns them all into cannibals, right?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, usually this is the point in the video where, for added context, I would play a little clip of the trailer. I don't know if I could do that. Because I don't know if there's any clips I could. I'll tell you what, right here, you're going to see it on screen as much as I put on there, and it was probably only about 3 seconds worth.
Yeah.
Because this trailer was crazy. So, it's not rated, but if it were rated, it probably would be under that NC-17.
Yep. See, like, I think if this got like a theatrical cut, it would either be pushed out as unrated, or if it went to theaters, probably NC-17, or they'd bump it down to an R for theaters and then release it unrated.
Mm-hmm. But finally, last one we're going to talk about here is Woman of the Hour. This one's also coming straight to Netflix here. This is one I've kind of been looking forward to for a little bit of time here. Unfortunately, this movie is based on a crazy true story. Mm-hmm. Have you heard about this story before?
Well, see, and that's the thing. Like, I've been familiar with this story for many years, and I don't know why. I never thought to ask why they haven't made a movie about this yet, because it'd been from the conspiracy theories and the internet rabbit holes that I fall down, I've known a lot about this story for a long time. Mm-hmm. So to see a dramatization of it, I think a good one,
especially in this true crime craze that we're almost constantly in these past decade or so.
But see, I think part of that is they probably came up with this idea 3-4 years ago and started working on it to from the time of conception of an idea to writing it, then getting the actors, filming it, editing it, and putting it out there. That's got to be a couple of years.
Yeah, you're right. But let's just tell. Well, a lot of people out there maybe don't know the story. We should maybe tell them a little about it here. Sure. Basically, there was this hit game show called The Dating Game. I feel like everyone knows that.
Everyone's heard of that.
Even if you haven't seen it or weren't around, you know about it. Where one woman would ask these 3 guys, they're anonymous, they're on these other side of the walls, they have various questions.
And you see a lot of YouTube channels now kind of taking that same concept, but just doing a little different, whether it's that weird balloon popping one or the one where they are behind the curtain and then the curtain goes up a little bit as they talk. There's so many different variations of this now on YouTube. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it was a popular show. It was on for quite a few decades.
Yeah, it was a hit show.
Yeah. So basically this one particular woman, she asked these guys various questions, and then essentially she would just pick the winner based off their answers, and then they would have the chance to go on a date.
Yeah.
One episode, and again, this actually happened in real life. One of the 3 contestants was an active serial killer.
Yeah.
He was, correct me if I'm wrong, he was in the middle of his spree.
Killing spree.
Yeah. And I mean, it was the 70s. There was no such thing as background checks.
Yeah. There's no background checks. There's no cameras. There's no, out on street corners and people's houses. There was none of that.
Yeah. So essentially, this woman, she ends up picking him as the winner, by the way. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because it seems like you've done a little bit more research on this than I have, but they ended up not following through on the date because she can kind of tell right away, just getting to know him a little bit backstage.
See, and that's where I'm curious as to how they're going to do this, because as soon as they met, she was like, no, I am not doing anything with this guy. This guy's giving me bad vibes.
She could pick it up
She could
pretty
pick it up,
quickly.
yeah, really quick.
Which is such a crazy moment. Like, you hear people say they follow their gut, and that seems crazy, but in this case, she did, and it probably saved her life.
Probably saved her life.
Actually, not probably did.
Yeah, and there's a lot of those people that had run-ins with serial killers that either escaped or like they always talk about like that. I don't remember who it was, but like they were hitchhiking. They need a ride, and one of the guys pulled over, and like he was about to get in, and he's like, I just don't feel right.
Yeah.
I don't need a ride. I'm okay. Thank you. Yeah. And then the guy, and it's like, oh, that was Richard Ramirez.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. You
was
find out
Ted
later
Bundy.
that was Ted Bundy.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
So, like I said, based off a true story here, I think the trailer didn't show this, but I do think the movie is going to go a little bit more into this serial killer and the events that led up to it, because the game show itself is kind of a small chunk of the story timeline-wise, but is such a huge part of it.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if they're not going to tell the story. Like, the game show, I could see it going, is the game show going to be the entire film, but each question is like flashbacks or like, so they're asking more personal questions, and you're getting more personalized things that he did bad as it goes on to the movie. And then the climax is like hey, you won, let's go out to date. No. Kind of something like that. Yeah. So I don't know how they're going to do it.
I think it'd be a really cool way to do it.
Yeah.
Really. But yeah, this movie not only stars Anna Kendrick, but it was also her directorial debut. Yep. So she directed this one as well. Well, that's going to do it for us here on this episode of Popcorn Bucket List. Once again, head on over to the Lyon County Library here in Marshall, Minnesota to check out our scary movie recommendations, as well as some of the ones they put on there as well. And also see if, they got a huge selection over there. So see if there's any others that we didn't pick out you maybe want to check out as well for this spooky season. Maybe Halloween's up there too. I don't know.
Yeah.
But for myself, Ryan, Michael Myers, and Carter, I'd like to thank you so much for watching, and we will see you at the movies.